Hello and welcome to the last day of our sew along. Today we'll be finishing the project by adding the skirt or just finishing the crop top. I'm going to be starting by creating the back band, adding the skirt, but creating the band itself, adding the skirt, and then we'll hem at the end. We've already done a few videos with hemming, so I feel like this is more important to start with. So lay your bodice on a table. It's definitely something I encourage you to do. Don't do it like in the air, because you want to make sure that none of the bands, none of the fabric is twisted. So I'm laying my fabric to make sure that this is perfect. And I am making a size 2X, so my piece is rather big. If you're making a kid size, will be easier. But if you're sewing for adults, you need to be extra careful that nothing has been twisted. So, see, I'm double checking. And now you want to fold the side seams, right sides together. I did do a memory hem. Remember when we did the back piece, I showed you that I pressed my back piece along the long edge, so that will help me when I fold right now. And I'm putting 2 pins at the side seam here, and I like to start with the back. It's easier to add the back first and then the sides. So I'm pulling my skirt, I'm putting my hands in it and pulling my top to match the side seams. So where the side seam of the back is, I'm matching it to the side seam of the back piece. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, so there should be no stretching involved for when you're adding your band. I'm gonna put a couple of pins, and again matching the raw edge, the side edge here. The back is rather easy. It's just like a regular waistband. So this is the back, and now we're going to be working on the front. So we'll do that in 2 separate steps. First, we'll start on one side with the band. Well, now it becomes a band, but it's part of the main piece. We're going to fold it right sides together, and matching the raw edge, we're going to pin it to the bodice and getting it as close as you can to the center seam. So I'll add a few pins, and there will be a point where you won't be able to go any further because of the twisting design. So this is the center seam. See my serger edge here. So this is where we'll probably be stopping with this. And I also have my notches that show me where the center seam is. So I'll put a pin here, a clip. So you want to continue pinning. The first part we're going to be sewing will be with the sewing machine, because it's easier to get closer to that center point with the sewing machine than it is to do with the serger. So those notches are right here, and this is pretty much as far as I can go on one side. Now we're going to start doing the same thing on the other side. Again, start with the side seam. Have your fabric folded, make sure it's not twisted. The front of the bodice now becoming a band. Okay, so the raw edges are folded. You're gonna align it to the bottom of the bodice and put a few pins. And again, pin as close as you can get it to the center. You can see my center bodice because it's white serger thread. So when you pin, you will have 3 layers right now that you're pinning. Make sure that you always have 3 layers. And we'll see how close I can get it. You want to be as close as you can to that center seam, making sure that you still have your 3 layers. So the closer you get to the center seam, the more gathered you'll have in the twist. Alright, so this is how it looks like from the inside. You see my little knot here, my little twist, and this is how as close as I could get it on both sides, my green and pink clip. And this is the back. The back looks pretty easy. So now it's all pinned around. I'm gonna move on to the sewing machine and switch and stitch from the center out about 2 inches using a stretch stitch, because this will get a lot of pulling and tugging. You want to make sure that you do use a stretch stitch, and it's easier on the sewing machine versus your serger for this step. But we'll be doing just a few inches on each side, and then of course we'll do the rest of it with the serger. So I think I'm going to start from the outside towards the center to get, that will give me a little bit more wiggle room to get close. So we can do a lightning bolt stitch, or we can do a triple stretch stitch. That is quite a tongue twister. And make sure that you do follow the 1/2 inch seam allowance included in this pattern. And get as close as you can. I'm still using white thread so you can see it. Make sure that you don't pucker the fabric, it's all laying nice and flat. And this is pretty much as far as I could go. Same thing on the other side. So this is, see, I made it to the notches, which is good if I made it to the notches. So now I'm going to start from the other side. And yes, it's easier if you start from the outside towards the center than if you were to sew from the center towards the outside. Making sure that nothing is puckering here. 1/2 inch seam allowance. Let's see how close I can get to that notch. Grab the bottom piece because that's the one that tends to run away. I think this is as far as I can go. But it's not bad. And definitely easier with the sewing machine. So this is how it looks like from one end and from the other. So now when you turn it, it looks twisted here. So now set that aside and grab your skirt piece, and you can move on to the serger right now. Now with the serger, you can grab your skirt piece. The front and the back on this skirt pattern are the same, so it doesn't matter unless you have something that you want featured. And I'm laying my skirt right side out, the way it's going to be worn, because I want to make sure I like the way it looks first. So this will be my bodice, and this will be my skirt, and they're all right sides together. So now what I do is I put my hand inside the skirt and bring it over, matching the side seams to my dress, and now they're right sides together inside. So your side seam of the skirt will be matching the side seam of your bodice and your band. So add the skirt to the pins. Again, the skirt will be 1-to-1 ratio with the top and the band, so there will be no stretching. It's just that you're pinning a curved edge to a straight edge. But other than that, there is no stretching. And I'm pinning all around. If you're not doing the skirt, you can now use your serger to attach the rest of the band to your crop top. If you're adding the skirt, you need this extra step when you'll be attaching the skirt to all the layers. So I'm matching my center front to that notch right here. I had 2 notches here. There you go. I'm matching it to the notches here to make sure that the skirt is laying nice and centered. And now continuing on the sides, just as you did before. So you'll have a nice big loop right now. The waistband all pinned together. Nothing puckered, everything aligned. And here in the center I'll put a couple extra pins. Just to make sure everything stays together and there's no holes afterwards, no missed stitches. Like right here. So now you should have 4 layers that you'll be stitching together. So one is the skirt, one is the bodice, and 2 are the bands. So I'm gonna start from the side with the bodice because it's easier to see my other stitches. And remember, you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm gonna start from the center front, again to see my stitches that I did before on the sewing machine. Make sure that everything lays nice and flat. Go slow because you have a lot of layers and you want to make sure that they're all caught in the stitch. You don't want to miss any layers. Use your hand to feel for any puckers. Okay, so we're getting close to the initial center stitch. So again, I'm trying to keep everything nice together and getting as close as I can. All right, so this is the project with the skirt attached. Again, keep in mind this is a size 2X, so it's rather big. If you're doing the kids, it's gonna be a little easier. But it's not a difficult project, and now because of the way the pattern is built and the stretch, you have a beautiful gathered in the center. Of course, give it a good press, especially where you have your side seams, so there's no puckering. All we have left to do today and to finish the project is to sew, to hem the sleeves, if you're adding sleeves. If not, for the bands you don't need to do anything else. So just hem your sleeves, and we're going to be hemming the circle, the half circle skirt with a 1-inch hem allowance. And I will be doing that on my serger, on my cover stitch machine. You can obviously do these steps on your sewing machine using a zigzag stitch or twin needle. We are ready for hemming. Take your skirt piece and press 1 inch towards the inside on the raw edge, and go ahead and keep pressing all around the bottom hem. Pressing this before you sew the 1-inch hem will make it that you won't need any pins or any clips. I would not skip pressing the hem before, either using a hem gauge, or if you've done plenty of seams, you kind of can eyeball the 1-inch seam allowance. So now I'm placing it under my pressing foot, using my hands to feel that I'm catching the raw edge on the inside and avoiding tunneling. To avoid tunneling, you need to make sure that both needles are on the folded fabric. If you put one needle towards the outside, here I'll show you at the beginning, see? Here I have one needle that was outside of the fabric, so I was getting a little bit of a tunneling. So then you can see the transition here. I realized that, so then I moved my fabric a little bit more, and now my both needles are catching the fabric and there's no tunneling whatsoever. So make sure that both needles are on the fabric and that your left needle is as close as you can get it towards the skirt, without, of course, getting off the hem. So we are close to the end of the circle, close to the beginning where we started stitching. So I'm gonna come and overlap for about ½ inch. I'm overlapping my stitches. This will lock everything in. pulling my threads, snipping, and all the stitches are locked in, nothing will open up. Cut your threads. If I don't cut my threads right now, I know I'll forget, so I tend to cut my threads every time after I finish stitching. I know a lot of people just cut threads at the end of the project all around, but then I know for sure I'm gonna miss some. So this is the skirt hemmed beautifully. You can do the same thing with the twin needle, get almost the same effect, or you can do just a zigzag stitch with your sewing machine. All we have left to do right now is hem the sleeves. And remember, we did a memory hem when we attached the sleeves. On the sleeves here, you can see there's a fold, and that will make it super easy when we hem right now. So just fold, wrong sides together, and it's easier to put your fabric in the presser foot like so and stitch from the inside, especially with smaller sizes. But I tend to do that for everything. When I have long sleeves, the wrist is rather small versus the sleeve up here, so that's how I tend to do my hemming. See? With the sleeve inside the presser foot. And of course, repeat the same thing for the other sleeve, and you are all done. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this X Factor sew along. As always, all the steps and daily posts will remain on the blog, as well as the videos on the YouTube channel with links in the blog. So you can always refer back to this if you want to try another one or make a different style. And you also have the videos linked within the pattern. So once you purchase the pattern, you'll have access to those videos as well. When you are done, give it a good press. It will reduce all the waviness from cover stitching or hemming. And snap a picture, modeled or not, of your finished dress or crop top and post it in the day 6 check-in. That's where we will look to pick the winners for the sew along. We'll have 2 winners. They both will receive a gift certificate from Millie May Fabric, which is our sponsor, that provided also this gorgeous burgundy bamboo lycra. It's absolutely amazing. It feels so delicate and so smooth on the skin. And gift certificates, of course, for the winners for Patterns for Pirates and Made for Mermaids, as always. Thank you once again for joining me. I look forward to seeing all your completed projects, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.